What's up? What's up, beautiful people? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Come on in here. I'm excited about the talk this morning. I am a Bahamian. I felt that this morning. I felt to go back a little bit. I am joined this morning with my good friend, Dale Hudson. How are you doing, my friend?
Wonderful, wonderful. Up this cold morning, ready to talk about Jesus and ministry.
Well, I'm so glad you've been able to take some time out and say, hey, I'm going to get up early and join Ricardo live.
Yeah.
If you guys are watching us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, Twitter, Facebook, stay connected. This is going to be a really, really good conversation. Dale, how cold is it where you at, man?
Let's see. The weather thing on my app says it is 30 degrees.
Wow.
30 degrees.
Well, this morning when I got up, I said, man, I'm feeling home. I haven't been back to the Bahamas in 12 months now.
Wow.
That's sort of unheard of.
Yeah.
I've normally been going back almost once a month over the past 5-6 years.
Right.
And so, I mean, COVID has just changed so much, you know? Yeah, but it's cold outside too. The fireplace lit, candles are light. I mean, coffee's made, and I'm live, and so I feel good.
It's a good day.
Yeah, I know, right? It's a good day. Listen, Dale, man, I've been following you for a long time. As a matter of fact, you joined me in the Bahamas, got a chance to do some ministry there and share with some leaders. For our viewing audience, tell them a little bit about Dale Hudson.
Yeah, Dale Hudson, first of all, is a follower of Christ. I've been walking with Jesus for 47 years now. It's hard to believe it's been that long. I accepted Christ when I was young as a child and have tried to serve him, over the years. And so follower of Christ, first of all. Then I'm a husband. Secondly, my wife, Pamela, and I have been married for 31 years.
31 years. Ooh.
31 years. Yep.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. Yep. 31 years. And so I'm also a father. I have two boys. Josh is 30. He's married. He just moved out to Phoenix area with his job. Took my grandson way out to Phoenix, so I have to fly out there now, I guess, pretty often. And then my youngest son is Caleb. He lives in Gainesville, Florida. And so that's my two boys. They love Jesus and are serving him. Nice. Then last of all, I'm a children's ministry leader. I served in kids ministries in local churches for 28 years. And I had always kind of loved going and helping other churches. And so the door opened up 4 years ago for me to be able to help the Big C Church full time. And so now that's what we do, coaching and consulting and speaking and writing and all those good things.
Nice.
So it's a little bit about me.
Man, hey, listen, that's an incredible journey. It's 31 years.
Yep.
Man, that is awesome. That is incredible. Congratulations to that. And one of your boys decided to stay in Florida. He wanted that Florida weather.
His fiance, soon to be fiance, is there too. So that's one reason.
Totally understand. You understand the importance of kids and faith, and I'm a big believer. This whole platform I'm establishing called Effective Living. We got people watching and listening all over. Linda, if you're all listening, Vito in Freeport, Bahamas, you all heard me opening it up with Papa Smurf this morning. I felt the Bahamas this morning. Shirley, I see you, Lynette, all of you guys that are popping in. Do me a favor and share and tag somebody, because I want to talk with a guy this morning who tapped into something that really he believed that was his reason for existence, and that he was able to bring value to humanity and more specifically to the church. Dale, children's ministry. Why children's ministry? What was the thing that really triggered the element or the understanding that I think I need to dive into this right here?
Yeah. When I was 16 years old, I was in church. And all I cared about was three things. I cared about sports, my girlfriend, and my car. And that was pretty much it. And my youth pastor came and said, hey, would you help in the kids ministry? And at first I kind of said, nah, I don't think so. I got a lot going on. But he wouldn't give up. He kept asking me to come. And so finally I came and served in kids ministry that first week. And man, that was it. God just said, this is what you need to give your life to. And so I've been trying to follow that calling ever since.
In committing to children's ministry, when you initially got in there, what were some of the moments, the wake up moments that basically said, you know what, this is the securing of the future of the church. This is, there's a lot of other positions I could grow to, or what they will say, come to,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever had anyone say to you, I've had them say to me over the years, you still doing children's ministry? You haven't come up yet? You haven't come over to big church and been promoted to another role or something?
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. Man, I've never felt aspiration to try to be a senior pastor or an executive pastor. I've always felt led to kids ministry because I believe it's the greatest mission field in the world. We know the percentages of people that come to Christ early in life. And so why would you not want to serve in the world's greatest mission field, right?
Yeah. The world's greatest mission field. I like that. The world's greatest mission field. And the truth of the matter is, there is a need for people to accept that they're called to that. Let's talk about that just for a minute, because there are some people who think it's simply a role to help and assist temporarily, when the truth is there could be a calling there. Could you talk to us about that?
I mean, man, children's ministry is the most strategic ministry, I believe, in the entire church, our future, as the church. And so I think God's calling people there, his best people, his best volunteers, to serve in kids ministry and just make a difference for the future. I mean, I always think when you serve in kids ministry, you're sending a message to a day you'll never see.
Wow.
When we're gone. Yeah. Those kids that we've invested in, they will be continuing to serve Jesus. And so, man, it's just all about leaving a legacy and reaching future generations for me.
Man, that is so good. How, just as what you just mentioned, I want to dive into that, because over the years there had to have been opportunities where maybe so much have been changing in the space of children's ministry that you may have thought, I put in 5 years, I put in 10 years. I think I need to jump out. Probably just, what kept you going for more than 25 years? That ain't no light time. Obviously, you're clearly a guy who understand the healthy commitment, or the healthy practice of committing solid. You're 31 years married, 25 plus years in children's ministry, being a person of faith a long time. What kept you though? I mean, I know you love the Lord, but what are some of the driving principles at the end of the day that kept you coming year in and year out to recommit to the same particular calling?
I think this is just what you said. It comes down to your calling. The gifts and callings of God are without repentance. And at an early age, when I started serving in kids ministry, the Lord solidified to me that this was what I was supposed to give my life to. And so I think it all goes back to the calling. When you get discouraged and you get, wondering, hey, should I take another position in the church? It all comes back to your calling. So that's kind of what has kept me over the years, is just knowing where I was called to serve.
Excellent. Now COVID-19 has disrupted so much, man. Churches shut down. There are some people like, I don't know if I can do this anymore, because so much is different in how we minister to kids. Things have always changed, and it has always been changing. Let me say it that way. However, the last 12 months, man, it's been some ridiculous amount of changes, right? It's like, what would have been a change that most churches would have embraced in a 10-year window, they had to do in 12 months.
Yeah, that's true.
Talk to us about your view on the rate of change that you're seeing happening in the world.
Well, just like you said, I mean, the COVID-19 has disrupted everything. Even my own personal, ministry. I've had a lot of conferences go to doing online conferences instead of in-person conferences. And the church, the church is the same way. There are so many churches that are not meeting or have been sporadic in being able to meet in person. And so they've gone online. And it's exciting to see that, people are using technology and getting the word out there to families and whatnot. That's a big thing. And then, just how are you going to teach the kids? You still want to stay in contact, and how are you going to connect with parents? I think it's a great time to be in ministry as well. We know that families are spending more time together at home because dad may work at home, mom may work at home now. And so they have more opportunities to spend time together. And so, man, if we can get that message out there to them, whatever it is, whether it's a video you create or it's a Facebook Live or whatever, that you connect with those families, such a great opportunity to do that.
You're so right. Let's look at the fact that with all that's happening right now, you've been a guy over the years that continue to thrive in children's ministry. How important has it been for you over the years, and for those who are in children's ministry now, to study culture and study the times and embrace the things that can be converted over to a progressive approach for ministry? Because I know you did an incredible book, what we can learn from Disney. Talk to us about that and the understanding that there are universal principles, if applied, can allow us to do some great things for God.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be willing to adapt and change as needed. And there's a lot of things that don't change. We know that kids and families are longing for a personal connection, whether that's in person or online. They're longing for that. And, a lot of things change, but some things don't change. I mean, you still need to be building volunteer teams. You still always want to teach kids God's word. You want to be connecting with parents. And so a lot has changed. Hopefully we're going to see some swing the other way with the vaccines that are coming out and whatnot. So hopefully it'll get back to the new normal. I've been asking a lot of churches, when it gets back to quote normal, will you continue to do online stuff and in-person stuff? Will you offer both? And some churches say, yes, we're going to offer both. I mean, some say we're not going to do the video stuff once we get, back where kids can come in person. And I'm so thankful for ministry. I mean, I use technology for conferences and everything, but I still think there's no substitute for a kid coming to a place and sitting down with a leader that looks them in the eye and calls them by name and prays for them and gives teaching to them and so forth. So I just don't think online can replace totally what you get from in person.
Yeah,
the relational factor.
I totally agree with you. I don't think online can definitely replace it. However, I don't think online is going anywhere.
Yeah, you're right.
I think a church that started an online service for kids and families who decide to disconnect it to go back to the one way is hurting themselves futuristically.
Yeah, that's true. And there's a tension there, right? You want to do that. You want them to be there in person, and there's that tension. So I think you're right. A lot of churches I talk to are going to continue to do both. Some are just going to do live, but I'd say the bigger percentage are going to do both.
Yeah. I think that's important. I think it's critical. It's a difference maker. Well, hey, I know you looking in children's ministry and watching a lot of emerging voices come up, and having worked in churches over the years, what are some of the common mistakes you notice that children's ministry workers or leaders make that could, not only affect the way they minister to kids, but even affect how they survive and thrive in ministry themselves?
I have a book I wrote last year that came out called Lead Well in Kids Ministry, and it's 300 pages of mistakes I've made. But, just some of the common things. And, you look, I was at a church in Tulsa this past weekend. I had actually been on staff there years and years ago. And I told the pastor who's still there, I need to apologize. Some of the stuff I did while I was here was just plain stupid. You look back in your 40s and go, what was I thinking? And then now in my 50s, I look back and go, what was I thinking in my 40s? And so a lot of mistakes there. But I think a big one is doing instead of equipping. Trying to do the work of the ministry instead of equipping volunteers to do the work of the ministry. And so doing versus equipping. I have a coaching program, and one thing that we do in that is I have them take a 2-week period and write down doing versus equipping, and try to see what the percentage is there to help in that area. And another thing too is going into kids ministry thinking it's just about kids. Yeah, the truth of the matter it's more about the adults who minister and teenagers who minister to the kids that is the kids and stuff. And I would say just another thing is that work on your people skills. When I first started, I was horrible at confrontation. I have to go back and apologize to people all the time. But work on your people skills is a big one. Doing versus being. Do ministry, but man, be who you need to be off the stage. And it's been heartbreaking the last year or so to see some of my heroes in the faith that it came out that they weren't being. They were doing what they weren't being. So that's on their record for the rest of their life. So to speak. So I would say those are some common mistakes.
Let's talk just for a few minutes on that doing versus equipping. There are so many who finds it very easier to just go ahead and do them. Because equipping requires a skill set a lot of people aren't prepared to adapt to. They take the title, but they don't take the influencing part that really comes with the title of director, which demands that you're in front to equip more than do. But doing is so much, if I want it done right, I might as well just do it myself. Talk to us about the commitment to become skilled in equipping or getting the initial support or network around you that can help reinforce the equipping side of what you're needing to do at your church?
Yeah, I mean, it's not what you can do, it's what you can empower other people to do.
Yeah.
So important. It's just vital. You have to. Yeah, you may be able to do it yourself, but eventually you're going to be handicapped. You're going to be the lid. You're going to become the lid.
Yep.
For your ministry, and so we've got to equip the saints. I mean, that's our calling, and it is here to do things. Especially, maybe some areas we're a control freak.
Yep. Over the years, go ahead. I want you to dive into that. What's that control freak element? I like that.
Well, nobody can do it. Nobody can do it as good as I can.
Yep.
85% is not good enough, and I need this. My self-esteem is tied to this.
Yep.
And so it's hard to give that up. But like I said, you'll become the lid if you don't, give it up. I always say this as a leader: your job is not to be a star. Your job is to create stars. Your job is not to be powerful; it's to empower others for the work of the ministry. And so it's being willing to say this is about others, not about me.
It is that principle right there, man. I respect you so much, man. I'm telling you. I mean, that's amazing right there. Let's dive into this because you understand that element of the lid. The church has the potential to do more, but someone who is not equipping can be limited. And sometimes some pastors don't move unless the growth is occurring appropriately inside of a certain area. So if the potential is there, but the leader is not growing in proper proportion to the growth of the church, that stagnation element that is there can affect the entire body. Right? Yeah. And so over the years, obviously you built a principle of accepting the fact, hey, listen, it's not about me, it's about the work that is for us to do. Talk a little bit more. I really want you to talk a little bit more about that it's not really about me, it's about equipping a bigger team and me getting past my feelings. Let me use that term. Yeah. And understand that if this church, let's a good example I would like to use is you came to the church is 100 kids. 2 years later, it's 300 kids. You feel good. You feel great that it's 300 kids because when you came, it was 100 kids. And it's 2 years later. Everybody will say you're a rock star. But if the church rate of growth is 100 times that, and it could be 500-600 kids, the reality of it is, even though you've done good in the growth element of taking that children's department to another level, there's still more. Talk to us about building for the more rather than the impression that you think you brought to the table.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one thing I did when I was children's pastor at the last church, we sat down, we made a list. If we could have every volunteer that we'd ever want or dream of, we created those positions. And then we created these big boards that had those positions. Again, if we could have all the volunteers we wanted, here's what we would have. And we began to try to fill those spots up. And so it's, it's looking ahead and seeing the different volunteer roles that you can make available and then putting people, in those roles is critical. Just having that vision for the future, we're not going to stay where we're at now, but we want to move to the future and know what's going to happen by volunteers that come alongside us. And so doing that. So important to have that vision for building. And the truth is you never stop building your team, right?
Yeah.
You never start. If you're growing, especially if you're a growing church, you're never going to stop building the team that it takes to reach those people. Because I am so bought in on ratios. Uh-huh. 2 teachers with 30 kids, it's going to be kind of hard for you to really build relationships. Or that preschool room where there's 30 preschoolers in there and just 2 people. Yep. How are you going to build a relationship with those kids? And so I think ratios are really important to having the right ratio so they can be relationships and discipleship can happen on an effective measure.
Man, that is so real. If you're watching us this morning, build a culture of training, build a culture of equipping. Initially, it may start off as a difficult element, but it's possible. Now, I heard you mention, a growing church needs a team that is constantly developing. But in addition, I'll add to that is your church will keep growing if you keep developing.
Yeah, man.
You increase your chances of being a church that survived the test of time when your people are growing and developing and understanding the trends. Let's talk about let's talk about any advice you would give to a children's ministry leader that in this pandemic, there's so much going on, is a must. And you might have referred to some already, but if you're watching us right now and your passion is to reach young people, these are Dale Hudson 3 must do. You cannot miss out on doing these to survive where we're at and where we're trying to go in ministering to kids.
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, it all has to be grounded on our personal relationship with Jesus first and foremost.
Yeah.
We have to walk with him.
Yeah.
We have to have his power in our lives. We have to have his presence in our ministry. And so I think that's first and foremost, is to walk with Jesus. Don't get discouraged. He's going to be there. I always, Ricardo, you fly a lot on airplanes, just like I do. And, they have the pre-flight instructions. Here's how you buckle your seatbelt. Duh. I didn't know how to do that. But one thing that does catch my attention is when they say, if the cabin pressure should drop below a certain level, oxygen mask will fall from the ceiling.
Yeah.
Here's how to put it on. Then they always say this, always catches my attention. They say, if you're traveling with a child, first secure your mask before you put your child's mask on. Why do they say that? Because you can't help the kid if you're passed out.
Yeah.
So I would say that the personal relationship with Jesus is what's going to keep, that oxygen flowing in. From the overflow, you can minister to kids. I say another thing too is to pace yourself.
Yeah. Pace
yourself during this time.
Yeah.
Find a sustainable pace. Yeah. And there's times where you have to go all out for ministry, and just 7 days a week. I always think about the story of the walls of Jericho. Jesus told him to march around the wall one time, and it was a big city. It took a while to get around the city. Yeah. Then on the 7th day, he said, march around 7 times. And I'm sure there was some complaining going on. Why do we get to do 7 times? Because that was what it was going to take to get those walls down and have victory. They had to go 7 laps. And so there's times in your ministry where you got to go 7 laps. You can't live there or you'll burn out. But there are times where God says, okay, for this season, I need 7 laps to see a miracle happen. And so just stand faithful, have a sustainable pace, and so forth. Don't get discouraged.
Yeah.
So I think those are a couple of things. Your pace, relationship.
Yeah, that whole element of pace yourself. Ooh, pace yourself. And there are some people, I ran a marathon a couple of years ago, and I remember the guy said, in your pursuit to finish this, find your run, find your pace. Run your race. That was the term he used. Run your race. And it's hard to do that when you're looking to the right, to the left. And hey, listen, it was the full marathon. I was about to, the half. The half is that if you're doing the half, you could turn off here and go home and finish off here. But those who are doing the full, they could continue to go this way because you just halfway in. Well, the interesting thing was, Dale, at the half, they had some guys finishing the full.
Wow.
I'm talking about they were so far. I'm talking about this is where I'm at, okay? So where I'm running, when I hit the half to split, I'm thinking, I'm doing good because I'm halfway. But there were some guys who were already on the coming back side of the full. And looking at them, and I didn't even hit the half full yet. There were times I wanted to speed up.
Yeah.
But I had to remind myself, those guys are training on a whole different, they were running to qualify for the Boston.
Yeah.
I was running to complete, not to compete.
That's a good saying right there. Run to complete, not to compete. I'm going to steal that from you.
Yeah. And I got that really then and stuck with it, and it's helped me a lot. It's really, really, really helped me a lot. And so, guys, if you're watching this morning, remind yourself, listen, I'm running to complete, not to compete. I want to finish well. I want to finish well. Dale, children's ministry, futuristically, what do you see? Let's talk this before you go. Some of the things let's go there, that you don't see anymore, that you find to be very interesting, that you can remember. These were the hot stuff, man. Oh my goodness. These were the things that made children's ministry come alive, and obviously they've been put aside for the most part. And then I would like for you to talk about futuristically, what are some of the things you see coming in children's ministry that's going to be very different than what we're doing today?
Yeah, well, during this pandemic, all the churches I've talked to have lost some or has had some key volunteers to step back.
Yeah.
especially your older volunteers who are just kind of, and there's that tension there. I want you to serve, but I also want to protect you. I don't feel used, come into this risky situation. I do care about you as a person first and foremost. But most churches have lost, a good bit of volunteers, maybe over half. Most churches have decreased in attendance during COVID. I was at a church in the Nashville area 2 or 3 months ago, and pre-COVID, they had 600 kids coming every weekend. The weekend I was there, they had like 100 kids. And so there's a lot of people still out there that haven't came back to the in-person services, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Are people going to get used to just staying at home instead of coming? So that's a big factor, I think. Going to see how that happens. What I'm really burdened about is I feel like we're not putting into the kids what they need to get to survive spiritually. I've got a book coming out next month called Fertile Soil. And in there, I talk about the 3 big reasons why people walk away from the church and the faith. I'll save those for the book. But one of them is an interesting statistic is this, that the nuns, when I say nun, I don't mean like a Catholic nun. I mean like N-O-N-E. These are people that would say I have no religion. Like if you were to, on a survey, if you were to ask them Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, Catholic, they would put no religion. They would check none. Here's what's scary. 78% of those nuns grew up in church. Wow. Grew up in church. They sat in their classrooms. They sang our worship songs. They listened to our Bible stories. They were in our small groups, and they walked away. And so one of those reasons, the biggest reason, I want to give the book away, but the biggest reason that they walked away is they said, we just don't believe anymore. That was the biggest one. We don't believe anymore. And so I think the church, and I'm trying to rally churches to think about this, is we've got to teach doctrine. And this is not about how we teach. It's still got to make it fun and exciting, but it's about what we teach. These little puff lessons are not going to help kids survive spiritually when they get to college and they're faced with evolution for the first time or high school. And so I feel a huge burden that we've got to start teaching doctrine and teaching kids why we believe what we believe is huge, I think, coming up. And it's going to be interesting, again, with seeing families come back to church. And so I feel a real burden for that right now, to help that 78% not be 78%. For that.
How important is it for church leaders to look at the numbers? I mean, you've always been a great guy with the numbers. You mentioned the numbers. I want to highlight that because there are a lot of churches who we're going to open the door and pray and believe God that they're going to come back in without an understanding that, hey, your city has this amount of kids, your city has this amount of people, this amount of unreached people, this is how many people are in the distance of where you are, and this is what you're capable of possibly meeting the need of from a spiritual standpoint of these people, if you were to know the facts about the people and so forth. How important is it to study those facts?
Yeah, I mean, you need to know your culture. There's a passage in the Old Testament that says they were the men of, I believe it was Ishar, is how you say the name. They had a grasp of the culture, and they knew what decision to make. And so we've got to keep a grasp on the culture, especially kid culture. So important. You and I, we are missionaries, and everybody listen to this. We are missionaries to kids. Yeah. What does a missionary do? They study when they go to another place. They study the culture. They study what food they eat, tradition, and so forth. And so we got to get into the world of kids and show them that we care enough about them to do that. And that'll make a huge, huge impact if we show them that we care enough to learn about their lives. I walked in one of our classrooms one time, and there was a boy sitting in the back of the room, big frown on his face. And one of the volunteers came up and said, he's having a rough time today. He won't sing. He's disrupting everything. So we just put him in the back of the room. So I walked back there and sat down beside him and started talking to him. And he didn't care that I was, quote, the children's pastor. He didn't give me the time of day. He wouldn't even look at me. So I said, well, let me try this. I said, hey, dude, what kind of video game system do you have? PlayStation or Xbox, or what do you have? And all of a sudden, woo, wow. He popped up and started talking to him about his video games. What's your favorite games? We talked probably for 5 or 10 minutes there about video games. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go back up front here. They're worshiping a song right now. I'm going to go up there. You can stay here, or you're welcome to come up with me. And so I went on up there, and about 2 minutes later, I felt a tug on my coat. And it was that kid. He came up, and he was with us the rest of the service and behaved himself. But I think it was because we showed him that we really cared enough to enter his world and have a conversation about something that was important to him. And so, the old saying, people don't care how much you know, do they know how much you care? So important.
The connecting factor, though, in our busy, fast-paced world,
Yeah.
You got an hour service, hour 15 minutes. You better sit your skin down, listen to me, because I got a lesson to teach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have? Is that you or me? Who has my speaker on?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's feedback.
Right.
Okay. So that whole element of accepting the fact that where's that coming from? Another device is on. You got a YouTube on or something?
No.
Okay. Okay. All right, Dale. Let's bring it in. Coaching. How important is it?
Everybody needs a coach. You know, even Tom Brady, the greatest of all time, I'm a Cowboys fan, so I'm still a Cowboys fan. But Tom Brady has a coach. He has a quarterback coach. I don't matter how great you become, there's always room to learn, right, and improve. If you ever get to the spot where you think you know it all, that's where your growth stops.
That's good.
And so coaches are so important. I recommend to people to have three coaches. When I say three coaches, three people they're listening to and connecting with. One coach that's younger than them.
Yep.
They've got a better grasp on the current culture.
Yep.
One coach or a mentor that's about the same time ministry as they are, because they're going through the same thing at the same time. And then have another coach that's older than you, that has been down the road farther than you. If you can get those three people in your life, speaking into your life, man, you're going to be pretty balanced when it comes to getting good input and good coaching. So, man, it's so important. You always want to be learning. You always want to be growing. And so it's find somebody that can help you do that, and maybe ask the questions that you haven't thought about. Give an input about, help you realize you're blind. In my coaching program, one thing we do is we help them find their blind spots. So I contact, people they give me the names of, and I gather that feedback. What's her blind spot? What's his blind spots? And we work through those together. So I think that's why it's important to have a coach, help you realize those blind spots, and then just to, lead you along the way and encourage you along the way. It's really, really important.
Hey, and in closing, encourage our viewing audience to keep the faith.
Yeah.
Remind them that, be not weary in well doing. Challenge them to understand that the times we're in still demands us to perform and to provide ministry to kids.
Yeah. Amen. I would say one last thing. I was doing a conference I was speaking, and it talked about how the seeds, the parable of the sower, only one seed made it. And a lot of times we can get discouraged about that. We focus on the one that made it. We focus on the three that didn't make it. And a little lady walked up to me after the service, and she said, I thought about this over the years. She said, what's bigger, 3 or 30? What's bigger, 3 or 60? What's bigger, 3 or 100? Because that passage goes on to say that seed's going to produce 30, 60, even 100-fold. Yep. And those are bigger than the 30 that 3 that walked away. So be focused on the ones that God's going to use you to reach and see their lives changed.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Dale Hudson. Tell our viewing audience how they can connect with you. You got some great books. Tell them about your material and any event that you have coming up.
Yeah, sure. You can go to my website, buildingchildrensministry.com. Or if you want a shorter URL, I also have buildingkidmen.com. It's the same site, but just 2 different names, buildingkidmen.com. Yeah, we have several books we've written. The volunteer book we wrote helps you build principles on how to build a volunteer team, no matter what size church you are. The Disney book, which has been a big seller over the last 3 or 4 years. And then I wrote a book called Lead Well, how to lead well in kids ministry, how to lead up well, how to lead the kids well, how to lead parents well, trying to cover all areas of kids ministry. And then again, the new book's coming out, be here probably mid-Marchish, called Fertile Soil, how to see kids' faith grow and flourish for a lifetime. And so I think that'd be really helpful to you. But yeah, just go to buildingchildrensministry.com. Got lots of great resources there to help you in the ministry.
Good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it, Dale Hudson. We're so glad that you've been able to join us. Go ahead and get his material. If you are called to reach the next generation, his material is material that works. This is good stuff. I've always respected and admired Dale and all that he's been doing over the years and continue to do in helping kids and churches and families. And so looking forward to seeing what you continue to do in the future, my friend.
Thank you, Ricardo. Appreciate you and your ministry, man. You've meant a lot to me over the years. And so thank you for your investment in my ministry as well.
Thank you, sir. Listen, guys, I'm about to do a live on YouTube only. I've been doing a series of conversations. That live is going to start in 20 minutes. And so check me out there. Interesting topic this morning on YouTube. Once again, thank you, Dale Hudson. Make it a great day, man.
Thank you.